Hey guys, it's Kat. Today I want to do a little illustration inspired by this image, and I'm going to turn it into something like this. It's going to be a super easy tutorial, so if you've got your iPad, get it out and let's get started. I'm going to do a little bit of a greenish background, a very light faint green background, so maybe around here, but I do want to make it a little bit olive color. And just to give it a bit of depth, I'm going to use my airbrush. I'll use the soft brush and make it slightly darker. And I'm gonna just shade the outside areas. It can be rough, but just the edges, just to give it a little bit more depth. It's very, very subtle. Okay, so now that I've done that, I am going to duplicate this one, and I'll show you why I'm duplicating this in a bit. And this one, I'm just going to lock it. All right, now I'm going to try and draw the lighting, the shadow of the light. I'm actually gonna make mine a little bit more prominent just to make this artwork more enticing. So we're gonna need to use a brush that's showing that shadowy light effect. I like to use a brush called, go to Luminance, the light brush. And I'm just going to customize it a little bit. So just swipe right, duplicate, and then I'm just going to click that one there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is change the shape of it. So if you go to shape, you can go to shape source. And currently it's this kind of a shape. Now you can use this, but I want mine to be a little bit more smooth and more blending, whereas this is a bit more rigid. Go to import. I'm going to go to source library. I am going to use something, maybe this medium one would do. See how it's quite blending on the edges? I want to use that kind of an effect. Now if you go to Apple Pencil, scroll down, and under the pressure, the size, I'm going to set it to 0. And the reason why I do that is because I'm going to actually show you, if you use the light brush, the original light brush, now obviously the shape is going to be slightly different. The harder I press, if I put more pressure on my hand, it becomes a lot thicker and prominent. Whereas if I put light pressure, it's very, very faint and thin. But I don't want that. I want it to be quite consistent no matter how much pressure I put on this brush. So if you go to my light brush, the second brush that I've used, I'm putting a hard pressure there, I'm putting soft pressure here. See how it's always going to be the same? So no matter how much pressure I put on my hand, it's always going to be quite consistent, and I like that effect for this shadow look. There's one extra thing you might want to be careful when using this brush. This brush is very particular because depending on the background, its color changes a little bit. So I'll show you. I'm going to make another layer. So this is a completely new layer. So I'm going to select a different color, maybe like a lighter green, and I'm going to try and draw over it. Now have a look, it's very luminant. The luminosity is very abrupt in my point of view. So even if I put soft pressure, it has that kind of an effect. But look what happens if I actually choose this layer, and on that layer, I use the same brush. See how the color effect is very different. It's a lot more subtle. So this luminous effect is a lot less. And that's what I want. I don't want it to look like this because I like this artwork to be very subtle, very peaceful, and very calm. So let's go back, and I'm gonna delete this layer, and I'm actually gonna work on top of this copied layer. That's why I duplicated it, because just in case I make a mistake, I always have that background layer there as a backup. All right, so let's start these diagonal lines. I'm gonna go straight. I'm gonna hold and drag, or drag and hold rather. Let's do another one here, and then another one here. Drag and hold. If you look at the image, the lines are not always consistent. Some of them are thicker, some of them are thinner. So play around with the size. I'm gonna do this one quite big. For the next one. Okay. maybe slightly smaller again. And then just a little bit smaller. Just want to make sure they're all kind of aligned. Okay, I think that would do. So can you see that it already looks like blinds just reflecting on the wall from the sunlight? And now that I've done that, we're pretty much almost there. I'm gonna show you how to draw some of those leaves. Make a new layer, and I'm just going to hold the background to get that color. And in this case, I'm going to go to airbrush, and I like to use the soft airbrush. Now these leaves are also shadows. If you look at the edges closely, they're actually quite blurry because they're shadows. So you can make the opacity still a little bit lower, and I'm gonna make sure these brushes smaller so I can still add in the fine details. I'm just gonna color it in. Now every leaf has its own unique shape, so even if you think yours don't look quite like the image, it's okay. It can just be a leaf of its own. I'm gonna add in the stems a bit later after I do all the leaves. Okay, if you like, you can drag and it will just color it. But when you do feel this color like that, the edges are actually not quite complete. It's just because of the nature of the brush. The brush is very, very soft. So if you do decide to do that, just spend some extra time just smoothing out these rough edges that are a bit awkward. But that will save you a bit of time. So just smooth out whatever looks awkward. I'm gonna make the brush smaller because I want to make some of these quite pointy. Alright, I think that looks quite nice. Let's do another one. And let's just fill the color in. You can do the drag if you like. I'm just gonna color it there. Make the brush bigger. Okay, I'm gonna use a smaller, and then just do the pointy edges. Okay, that one's that. Let's color it in. Make the brush smaller and just maybe make the edges pointy. I'm going to come back to the first one because I just want to touch up the pointy edges as well. Alright, how does that look? Now I'm going to just increase the opacity, keep the brush quite small, and then just do the stems. Now if you look at the stems, they're slightly thicker on the tips, so I'm going to go light pressure and then just add a little bit extra definition to the tips. Now more here, just a little extra on the tip, and another one here, and just a bit more on the tip, and then one more. if you want to make these shadows a lot more subtle, or if you want these shadows to look more like they're from a distance, then you can select that layer, Gaussian blur, and just slide it slightly. So see how it's like very blurry the more you do it, but maybe that's too much, but just slightly. And then it looks like the leaves are a little bit more in a distance. One last step I'm gonna add is just add another layer and then make the color, I'm gonna select that color, background color again, slightly darker. And then I'm gonna use the soft brush again, maybe reduce the opacity, and then just the edges, maybe here as well, just a little bit more variety of color. We're not using lots of colors here, we're actually only using like one color. With that color, we can add so much variety to it using different shades of it. Now, if you click the leaves, I'll show you a little tip. Click that, and if you click Alpha Lock, so let's say I pick a really dark color, and then have a look. By utilizing the Alpha Lock option, if I color in that artwork, it will only color the artwork that's there. So anything outside of that particular artwork, it will not color. And that's a really, really useful tool if you want to only add effects to that particular layer. So I'm gonna go backwards. I think that color was a bit dark. I'm gonna click that one. And then just maybe slightly darker. Make sure it's still the soft brush, and see how Alpha Lock is on. I'm just gonna add a little bit of depth to the edges here. And by doing this, just looks a little bit more realistic. And there we go. Hopefully that was super, super simple. It only literally took me like 10 minutes to do this. Thanks for dropping by to learn. If there's any other tips you'd like to learn from me, please let me know in the comments. And until next time, take care.